Pro-life talk. Real world answers. This is Life Report.
Welcome to Life Report. I'm your host, Josh Brom. We're here again with Life Training Institute President Scott Klusendorf and Executive Director of Right to Life of Central California, Jonathan Keller. We're gonna do something a little bit different today. Here's what we're doing. Scott has a unique perspective here as far as the people that are usually on this show. Scott he doesn't work for a regional organization. He works for a national organization. In fact, he travels internationally as well. But you're all over the country all the time. Interacting with just about every pro-life group that's out here. We've got pregnancy care centers that have you all the time because you're pretty much the top CPC banquet guy, at least right now. That didn't mean like I'm going to...
No, I'm surprised. I'm flattered. But
up until maybe Abby Johnson came out with her book. Okay, maybe think you were the number one.
There you go.
The state right to life groups you're interacting with, the Students for Life groups. Right. You've got a perspective on the lay of the land that I certainly don't, that John can't, because you're not just seeing the news stories and the press releases, you're actually interacting with these guys. And so I want you to talk about something a little bit similar to what I did with Stephen Ertel recently. Let's talk about the state of the pro-life movement in general. How are we doing? What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? And what is it that you see unique about what we're doing here in Fresno? And that might sound self-serving, but Scott had interesting things to say at the banquet last night. I think it'd be worth... Scott's here, so we're going to use this time.
There is no local organization that has better young talent staffed than you guys. You've got apologetics going here. You are recruiting new people and training them. I said to a pastor last night, I said, here are 3 things every church needs to be doing. Because he asked me, what do we need to be doing to be pro-life clergy? And I said, you need to be doing 3 things. Preach, teach, and counsel that abortion is a sin. But secondly, and here's the part that's not being done. You need to equip lay people to make a case for the pro-life view in the public square. It's not enough to just convince people abortion's wrong. You've got to equip them with the tools of thought needed so they can confidently engage. You guys are doing that. A lot of pro-life groups are not doing that. And then the third thing we need to do is work with people who have been wounded by abortion and get them into the game so they can have God-glorifying ministry working on this issue without feeling they've been disqualified by their past decisions. But let's take that second point, equipping people to engage, which is written right into your mission statement as an organization.
It is. In fact, for people who are tuning in, you may know we just celebrated our 25th anniversary this year when we're recording it, 2012. And one of the things we've done as we're launching into our next phase of existence is kind of rebranding. Not so much that we're changing our focus, we're just kind of clarifying it for people.
Because what we had before didn't say anything.
It was a little nebulous. It was, kind of generic pro-life, niceties, but
defend right
just
to life.
Defending the right to life, basically.
Yeah, basically was what it was.
But we really wanted to clarify both what we do. We wanted our slogan, our mission statement, to be both descriptive and prescriptive. And what I mean by that for people who are listening is we wanted to describe accurately. If someone hears what we're about, we wanted them to be able to describe it accurately, quickly. But we also wanted to be able to prescribe what we are doing. We wanted everyone in the organization to have a vision for who we are at the core and what our goal is, what our mission truly is. And I know I am not an apologetics major. I am a business major. So I unfortunately...
You don't want to run around and say you're sorry all the time?
No.
Maybe that's what we do in apologetics.
Case-making. It's case-making.
Part of my goal in my background is really business and trying to help persuasively communicate the mission, not necessarily the arguments, but really the mission and the core. When I was in high school and starting college, I was thinking about going into marketing because really that was my passion, was not necessarily the intellectual arguments, but really how do we present those arguments to the general populace in a very broad sense, the engaged side of it, where you can hopefully draw people in enough that you kind of can be, a Trojan horse pro-lifer, where you kind of start by getting them engaged so that then you can unwittingly equip them so that they can go out and the third part, engage, equip, and finally embrace, like you said, Scott, to reach out to those that are either facing an unplanned pregnancy or those that in some way have been impacted by a past abortion, whether they've had an abortion themselves, counseled someone, but letting them know that there's hope and forgiveness. And that's for the next 25 years, our goal will be to engage, equip, and embrace.
Let me tell you why I think that's important. And I'm stealing your thunder here, Josh.
But I'm here to facilitate. You guys just go.
I'm going to tell you why I think that's important. Pro-lifers are wrongly overstating what the poll data appears to be showing. They're running around the country saying, see, the public agrees with us. Look at the opinion polls. Massive shift to the pro-life side. No, not really. I've got a guy on my staff with a statistical background. He is well-versed on this stuff, and he's done a meta-analysis looking at all the polling data for the last 30 years. It really hasn't shifted that much.
Right.
There's been some shift, and there's
specifically, let me just clarify, because I don't think you said it. You're talking about the polls that say how many people are pro-life and pro-choice.
Okay. Correct. The support for abortion versus support for the pro-life view.
Right.
There has been a modest shift, but here's the thing, primarily in the area of late-term abortion, thanks to, I think, the partial birth abortion debate, which shows why that was a valuable thing for us. It was a teaching moment, a very good, useful thing for educating the public. But look at support for first trimester abortion. It's still reasonably high. So we have not won the day. This idea that we have now won the culture war on the life issue is completely bogus.
It doesn't matter that much, because what they're talking about is people that self-identify as the word pro-life versus the word pro-choice, but they still vote pro-choice even if they identify as pro. So it doesn't matter.
When you got a bunch of pro-lifers running around voting for pro-abortion Democrats, I mean, come on, what have we really done? We haven't won much. They're not connecting the dots. So here's what we do have in front of us. We've been given a moment. It's like there's this pause in the contest, and the other side has run out of arguments, and I think people know that. They're a graying bunch. Their cliches are going, wait a minute, this is old news to us. And now people are going, well, what about this other side? What are they saying? So what we have in front of us is an opportunity to be heard, where 15 years ago you went and did a debate on a secular campus and they'd throw coat hangers at you. That doesn't happen anymore. You speak at a secular university, by and large, I am treated very charitably. And I'll get thoughtful questions from people who ask what I think are highly intelligent questions that shows me they're thinking about this issue. But we have not done the hard work of massively shifting the culture to our way of thinking. And that means we need apologists who are equipped to engage. You guys are doing that. You're mentoring people. You are equipping them. Even tonight, after this show is recorded and in the can, we're going to be meeting tonight to talk about how we equip people to be speakers, how we teach them how to debate even. There's a thought that was unthinkable and is still unthinkable to large segments of the pro-life movement, that we need to be engaging people and teaching them how to speak and debate. And you guys are thinking this way. It's a forward-thinking organization. So I have to give my hat off to you that you're doing this. And I hope other groups that watch what you're doing take notice, because it's a model they need to follow. And I didn't get permission, Josh, to say what I'm about to say. Jonathan, I didn't either. But if you're in your car right now and you're listening to this, or you're watching online, and you're not supporting the work of Right to Life of Central California, I really want to ask you why you're not. Because right here in your backyard is one of the best training operations for the future pro-life movement you could ask for. It's a model for what's being done right. Get behind these guys.
Well, I'm going to give my hat off to the main person that's had that impact on us. The reason we're doing the apologetics is you. I was 11 when I started listening to your tapes from Hume Lake.
And you still invited me to be here today?
I still invited you to be here. No, it was the best thing I'd ever heard. I listened to the tapes like 15 times, but then later, after you'd hugely impacted my life, you made me want to be a pro-life speaker when I grew up. You'd done a talk on the Vanishing Pro-Life Apologist. And you started with this stark story about, I think you literally called every Right to Life group that there was or something like that, and you asked them the same questions about what are you doing to train people, and the news was not good. And I remember listening to that on a plane on my way to a thing, and I was just like, I'm never working for a group that's not training people to equip. And then John hired me, and that's where we've gone. But that's a huge part to the work that you've done publicly to talk about the need for apologetics.
May God get the glory for whatever fruits come from my efforts. But let me say this: you're right, Josh. When you survey what Right to Life groups do around the country, I can only identify a handful that are doing what we're doing here. Kathy Humberger at Allen County Right to Life in Indiana is one who's doing phenomenal work with the Friends for Life camps. We started with 18 students. We will have this summer close to 300. We're not only teaching Pro-Life 101, Pro-Life 201, which is advanced pro-life apologetics. We're launching 301 this year, which is speech and debate training. And these kids are high school age, and they're eating it up.
Yeah.
They're hungry to be equipped. These high school kids get it. Hey, they come to us and say, we're getting our teeth kicked in at school on this issue. We want to defend what we believe, what our convictions are. And our church youth groups have been playing games for years, by and large. We entertain kids. It's time to equip kids to give them the tools of thought to engage. And that's why I love what you guys are doing. Marches, rallies, banquets, golf tournaments, they have a place. But if that's all we're doing and we're not doing the fundamental work, we're in trouble. The banquets, the golf tournaments, and the rallies should be used to fund the work of equipping.
And here's why the youth group thing is so important. I've started doing a thing in the last couple of years we call it the devil's advocate, where I go in, and I'm not the only one that does this. Brett Kunkel at Stand to Reason that does the same thing. But I go in, and the youth pastor introduces me as a pro-choice guy that's here, that's been gracious enough to come to our church in an uncomfortable environment. We're even skipping the worship session, and we're just going to have him. He is here to dialogue with you. He is an open-minded guy, and he wants to hear what you have to say. And then I gave a 60-second pro-choice speech with the best arguments I've heard, because we've been studying these arguments for 10 years now. And then it's crazy because I've done this a bunch of times now, and it's like the same story every single time. Here's what happens: the brave one, the courageous one, it's always a girl, homeschool girl, hand shoots up. Well, Psalm 139 says that God knit me in my mother's womb, and then Jeremiah 1:5 says this, and the Ten Commandments, right? And then, and so you should be pro-life. And then I look at her almost cruelly, and I say, I'm an atheist. I think your book was written 2,000 years ago by old guys that heard voices in their head. Now what do you got? And all the faces in the room, they're looking at the youth pastor, who let this guy in here, kind of a thing. I can't believe what's going on. And then they got nothing. Literally, you'll have a couple of homeschool kids that will then dialogue a little bit. One person actually used the sled test on me. I kid you not. It was awesome. But generally, everyone else has nothing to say because all they've been taught, if anything, is Bible verses, and usually nothing at all. And that means they're going to head to college campuses with zero.
With nothing.
All they're doing is emoting pro-life ideas that they've gotten from their parents, and we need to give them something more.
And they're waiting for them at the secular university are guys like P.Z. Myers, who says Mother Teresa was the worst person to ever live on the earth, that he doesn't care about abortion pictures. It just looks like a bunch of meat to him, yum, yum, and who insults the Christian worldview. And our kids have to be equipped to know how to do this. And here's something we need to say to pastors. Pastors have stayed away from groups like Right to Life because they are so afraid it will interfere and distract people from the gospel. But here's the thing. You cannot assume that people are going to accept the gospel when they deny fundamental worldview premises that are forerunners to their ability to understand the gospel. In other words, when you let me give you just an example of this. The gospel was written to who? Human beings, right? What happens to the culture's ability to grasp the gospel when the very definition of what it means to be a human being is up for grabs? Well, what about that? You see, if I'm a strict physicalist that believes human nature is nothing but a physical property, when I die, that's it. There is no judgment, there is no hell, and that impacts how I live now. If I believe, as the pro-life movement teaches, that I'm a dynamic union of body and soul, that I have an immaterial nature that grounds my identity through time and change, that impacts how I live because it means there's more to this world than the physical stuff right in front of me. So pastors need to see that these worldviews worldview issues interact with our cause, we're not a distraction to them. I can't count the number of times I've gotten into gospel discussions discussing abortion. It happens all the time.
Well, it has to, because you can't talk very long and have a very deep conversation about abortion without having to answer questions like, why are humans valuable in the first place?
Right.
Are humans more valuable than animals? Every once in a while you get that guy, like the guy on the train a couple of years ago that I sat with, who said his girlfriend thought that ants are equal with humans, and so he has a moment of silence when she kills an ant, and I said that doesn't mean she thinks they're equal, because if he ran over a kid, he wouldn't just have a moment of silence.
Yeah,
but
that's right. And should we throw her in jail for running over the ant? Yeah.
It would at least wreck her day. So it's worse. But most atheists agree that humans are more special than animals, but they can't explain it. But we can. But all we can do, I don't think we should go with this kind of functionalistic approach, like, well, humans can do this and animals can't. No, I'll just look. I'm going to give you a religious answer. There's this guy that 2,000 years ago that walked out of his own tomb, so I believe what he says. And here's what he said, is that humans have special value, and it's the only way to ground this. And we have the common ground. We agree humans are valuable, but I seem to be the only one here that can explain that. Correct. So we should take that seriously. That's a gospel conversation.
It certainly is.
Well, I would also say in my conversations, and Josh, you and I both have a background in leading pro-life youth organizations, not just doing a generalized equipping, but in doing specific equipping. I know when you were back in Georgia, I was here in California, but each of us have had experience going in with a group of people on a weekly basis and training them. Yep. And the thing that I found out pretty quickly, I don't know if you experienced this, but I found out that if you were doing something on a weekly basis, sometimes it can be a little bit of a stretch to come up with entirely new material. There's only so many times that you can do the sled test to the same group of students.
We're not just looping making abortion unthinkable every 5 weeks. It's not going to work.
But the thing that I found, and I started training some of our students on a lot of the issues that I know you guys have talked about, like moral relativism.
Yeah.
I know we did the feet firmly planted in midair, which I think is still a very good.
Oh, Kogel's great. Greg Kogel's phenomenal.
Pretty timeless curriculum. That's very, very good. We also did things just on logical fallacies. And the thing that I would try to talk to pastors and high school educators when they would say, well, why do our students need to hear from you? Why do they need to hear about the pro-life position? It was because I would tell them, this issue, if your students begin to grasp this issue, it will make them better thinkers.
Absolutely.
And that really, truly, it's kind of a mixed analogy, but a rising tide lifts all boats. And a rising intellectual level among your students will help them become better students in their scholastic endeavors.
Good answer.
It will help them become better Christians in their evangelical or evangelistic endeavors. It'll help them become better citizens in their civic endeavors.
That's right.
And this is, in some ways, obviously, I wholeheartedly believe the pro-life message, and I think that that's the primary reason why we do this.
Right.
But I think it's very important for pro-life people when they're talking to people who maybe are, like you said, the pastor friends that we have that are, well, isn't this just a side issue? No, it's not. It is, in my view, a core component of becoming a good Christian citizen in the 21st century.
Absolutely. We are members, and the Lutherans have a good way of putting this. There's two kingdoms here. We're a member of the kingdom of earth right now, but where we need to be good citizens, but we are ultimately citizens of heaven. But we have a role to play here. And let's think for a moment, if I may just cast some vision here. You guys are already doing a great job training and equipping people. Now, I want your listeners to think what could happen if this organization fundamentally was able to tap into resources that would allow you to take that training to a whole new level. For example, what if you were able in the future to hire 10 new staff people who would be equipped to target every Catholic and Protestant high school within a 100-mile radius of this location, and you systematically went after those schools, and you trained your speakers to get in the classrooms, give a 20-minute talk, demonstrate for the students what abortion is, make a case for the pro-life view, and answer questions effectively. That is going to cut the abortion rate in the San Joaquin Valley.
Oh, dramatically.
So you go as far north as Modesto, 100 miles to the north. You go down to Bakersfield, and you're just drawing a circle here, and maybe even go out, out toward the coast a ways. And all of a sudden, you've got a systematic plan that you can carry out for reaching, forget the public schools right now. There are secularized kids in the Christian schools, but not only that, there's Christian kids who would work to defend the pro-life view if someone gave them the tools of thought to do it.
Yeah.
And so when your donors think about supporting a work like yours, they need to think about that's the plan we're working on right here.
And I entirely agree with you. One of the things that has been sometimes frustrating to me, and it's crystallized, I think, for us here, for Josh and Kyle and the rest of our staff, is that we have to have a very big picture vision. Right. Something that I think a lot of times pro-life organizations do. They're very well-meaning,
right,
but unfortunately, their vision is too small. Mm-hmm. And I'll say that one of the best pro-life speakers I've heard at a banquet level in the last several years was actually last year here in Fresno. The Pregnancy Care Center brought in Bruce Wilkinson. Mm-hmm. Now, he's, for our listeners out there who may not be familiar with the name, he wrote a little book called The Prayer of Jabez, one of the most popular religious books in the last 15 years, probably only really second to a book like The Purpose-Driven Life.
Right.
Now, some people could have some quibbles theologically about some of the things in that book. But there is a really key point in that book that Bruce Wilkinson brought to the Pregnancy Care Center banquet. And it really was powerful and transformative for me. I think even though we've been doing this for a few years, it really helped crystallize some of these issues. And he was saying, you're thinking too small. If you as a pro-life organization are content to have just a golf tournament or a walk for life, or even to bring in an amazing speaker like Scott or someone else to train. We had 200 people at our dinner last night, or the dessert last night. If we had 2,000 people that came and heard Scott speak, it's too small. The other side is not stopping at just doing, oh yeah, we're going to have a Planned Parenthood dinner, once a year, and that'll be our thing. They are out there tirelessly every single day, working in the high schools, working in the community.
It's what Greg Cunningham once aptly said. He said there are more people working full-time to kill babies than there are working full-time to save them, and that's because killing babies is very profitable while saving them is very costly. Yeah. So costly that those who say they oppose abortion are doing just enough to salve the conscience but not enough to stop the killing. Yeah. And if our pro-life groups are content with banquets, rallies, golf tournaments, and they're not content with systematically training young people for the purpose of getting them to embrace pro-life advocacy as a career. Josh Brom is not in this work to stepstone to something else. Jonathan is not in this work to stepstone to something else. You're here because this matters to you.
Now I would actually take a slight quibble with one of the points you made.
Go ahead. Floor is yours.
No, I'll be a little creative on this, because you said that killing babies is very profitable and saving them is very expensive. Killing babies is very profitable, but actually, in my humble view, saving them is actually not that expensive. And let me explain what I mean by that. Planned Parenthood nationally received last year in taxpayer money alone, not receiving their private donations, just taxpayer money alone, they received over $360 million.
Right.
I haven't done the precise statistics on this, but I could bet you almost anything that if you added up the budget, the annual budget of almost every single pro-life organization in the country, it would not quite even equal that amount.
Yeah.
Now, that's government money. If you add up the money that Planned Parenthood gets total from private contracts and everything, the national organization is over $1 billion a year.
Right.
If the pro-life movement had $1 billion a year, I think you would see fundamental transformative change in the pro-life arena. And what I mean by that is not to say that, things are great, no problem, but the point is pro-lifers in general do so much with so little. If we were able to begin to approach the level that Planned Parenthood has, I think it's going to be a huge transformation. And I say that to say we really do, I hate to sound like I'm begging for money, but we really do need more opportunities. And let me, go ahead.
Well, let me quibble with what you said and explain why you were totally wrong.
All right.
Here we go.
No, just kidding, Jonathan. The reason I said it's expensive is the pro-abortionist only needs to maintain the status quo.
Right.
We've got to fundamentally reverse it and change it.
Right.
And we don't have the federal money coming our way
You're
that
absolutely
Planned
right.
Parenthood does.
Yeah.
So our job is hugely expensive.
You're right.
You are making, though, a wonderful point, and that is that Planned Parenthood and our adversaries are well-funded and they're staffed by full-time professional people. Our movement for years has been content to be staffed with part-time moms working their butts off trying to raise kids while they do a little pro-life work in between, and we're happy with that small vision.
Yeah.
We need full-time professionals in our midst. And that's why you guys are on the right page here, because you're thinking that way.
Let me give you also a close-to-home example for our listeners who are listening in the Central Valley. Planned Parenthood Marmonte is the affiliate that is located here. They stretch across the central part of California. Their executive director, Linda Williams, her annual salary for a nonprofit, government-funded corporation, her annual salary is $270,000.
Yeah.
That is more than the entire combined salary of all 6 of my staff members.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is not that we want to be complacent, but if we were able to put a team like this in every major metropolitan office area in the nation, it would be transformative. And you can do it for the price of the Planned Parenthood CEO's salary.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you had just 4 more full-time staff people that were committed to doing nothing but targeting schools within a 100-mile radius of this place, that has a profound impact culturally in this state. And Lord knows you need it here in California.
I put myself in the shoes of the person, the pro-life person that's older and is really frustrated because it's been 40 years of legal abortion, and tons of money in the last 40 years have gone to pro-life organizations, and we still have abortion. It feels like we haven't been doing anything or we haven't accomplished anything. But the money makes. I mean, I can tell you a bunch of things we could do. Literally, it is the things that we're limited by right now is just money and people.
We could hire 4 people next week if I had secure money for the next year.
If we just had some animators, I've got ideas for short videos that would go super viral and would get the
How do people send you guys gifts? Because I'm sorry, I'm jumping in here as a fundraiser. You haven't given me permission to do this, but how do they do it?
Well, I will let Grace put this in post-production, but if you want to go right here, across where my fingers are going, there's a website right here.
So look, if you're on the radio, look at your speakers right now, because that makes so much sense.
You can go to this website right here, and you can send us a donation. Everything that you send to Right to Life, it's righttolifeca.org. Yeah, that's true. I guess for our audio listeners, they can't see my
And this is tax deductible.
Everything we do is 100% tax deductible. It's, again, Right to Life, T-O, righttolifeca.org. And, of course, you can always link there from prolifepodcast.net. But we would really welcome your support in any way, shape, or form.
Excellent.
Scott, thank you for being here again. Scott Klusendorf, prolifetraining.com. You should be there. If you're wanting to be able to attack this on the idea level, then prolifepodcast.net is not your only stop. The Case for Life is one of the best books out there. This should be your first book to read as a pro-lifer. Jonathan Keller, Executive Director of Right to Life of Central California. Thanks for both for being here. That's our show. Have a great week.
You've been watching Life Report, Pro-Life Talk, Real World Answers. Life Report is produced by Right to Life of Central California. Visit their website at fresnoprolife.org.